Right. Welcome, friends. So good to see you all on this housewarming party of the And Now What space in the Design School for Regenerating Earth. And for us, this is a celebratory event. We are just so happy to have put this big step in our own journey. And we are also so happy that some people even want to follow us along. Because actually, why we do this welcoming space is because two communities come together. It's actually a confluence of the community of the design school, which is a very big community, way over 1,000 people, and our own And Now What community that was like 260 something people with a big overlap, but we were not very active there. And so we'll later explain a little bit about how we got here and also, of course, what we are planning to do together, because that's the most important. And I hope that Penny and Joe, who are the gracious hosts of the design school, will show you around a little bit for those people who is here who doesn't know the design school yet. Yes, Aline, really good. But I guess some people will watch the recording too who are not familiar with the design school. So I think it's also good that we have a quick tour of finding your way around here a little bit and also find back.
You can do that. Yep.
Yeah, please, please, please do that, do that. But since we are a very small group, I propose that we start with a quick check-in. Then we will have a little bit of the framing about how do we get here together and what was the history of that. And then we can have the show around. What's in the design school and also what's in the And Now What space and what are we going to do. And then I really would like to hear from you guys. What would you like to see in the And Now What space so that we can say, can we do that? Yes or no? Because it's not because you want it that we can deliver, Okay. So that's a bit of the outline. How does that sound to you? Okay. And it lasts as long as it needs to last. If we don't need 90 minutes, that's perfect. But no rush either. Okay. So maybe first the check-in. Aline, you don't know a lot of people here, is that right?
It's right.
So, right. So, because I think some other people already know each other, but we will introduce ourselves. So, for you and for all the people who later watch the recording and who don't know us. So, but I want to give first the first word to our hosts in the design school, Joe Brewer and Penny Heiple, because without them, we would not be here. Right.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Anne. So glad to be with you all.
Yeah, I just want to say we feel like it's a very natural partnership for the work that Anne and Neil have been doing for several years to come into a more visible relationship that actually has been part of our friendship. And that is that all of us see with eyes wide open what is happening with the world, where we are in collapse, and how important it is to discern, but also to hold emotions and to take meaningful action, which is a very difficult thing to figure out. What is a meaningful action from a place like accepting collapse? And so our work in the design school in many ways is a response to the planetary collapse that, for me personally, I was observing 25 years ago, but with less clarity, and it became more and more clear. And for Penny and her own story, that we feel really aligned. And we just feel like this space, the And Now What space, is going to be a very important complement and foundation of work as it relates to our learning journey that's about to start, specifically about that, because the name of that learning journey is Regenerating the Earth Through Collapse, not to avoid collapse. And then secondly, just in general, we think that there's a lot of work that we'll do ongoing. So I'm really excited to be welcomed into this little house party.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Benny, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just to say, I mean, that was really beautiful what Joe just said. I resonate with everything he just shared, and I'm just so thrilled that Anne and Neil decided to create a space in the design school, because it is it's a perfect complement to what we're doing here. And also just that our partnership is deepening between NNAWA and the design school and us. And if you want, I could give you like a little brief tour of the platform in case it's a little confusing.
I don't know if you want to do that now or after we do the opening.
Yeah, we could do that after the opening. But
yeah,
just,
that would be better. Yeah.
Just so thrilled to be with you all, and yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Anne and Neil.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. So who wants to go next? Just introduce yourself. Yeah, Michelle.
And where you're coming from too. Yeah.
Yeah, so Anne and Neil, thank you, and Joe and Penny for hosting this. I'm Michelle Brana from the Grand River watershed, which is nestled in the Greater Toronto bioregion, and I'm north of Lake Erie, a part of so-called Canada, our home on stolen land. That's a variation on the national anthem. That is, and it's a good time for me to be exploring the whole and now what, because things are starting to happen in the Grand River watershed. And one of the highlights of this week is Joan found herself upstream and visited me, and we walked by the confluence of the Grand and Speed River, and 3 swans flew overhead.
Oh.
And as people do, we could not agree on whether they were what kind of swans they were. So that lively discussion, but the beautiful moment, and I don't know, it feels so auspicious because the swans are migrating, and now what is kind of I believe a movement with the design school. So delighted to learn and see what's happening here.
Beautiful,
super.
Michelle.
Thank you.
As I went to bed last night, I could hear a noise outside in the sky, and I was wondering, what is that? So I turned on my little app on my phone, and it was migrating cranes flying over. But it was just in the distance, just above the traffic noise. You could just hear it. What is that? And so, yeah, I went to sleep with the calling of cranes.
Beautiful. That's also already beautiful. Who wants to go next? Joan? Yeah, please, Joan.
I can go quickly since I live about 20 minutes or half an hour south of Michelle, so I don't have to explain where I am too much. But I'm so grateful, Anne and Neil. I've had just such wonderful conversations with you both, and breakouts and other sessions, and I just am so looking forward to what this space has to offer, and what, the conversations and things I can take at this really discouraging time that feels like, you mentioned 20 years ago someone did, but I think this harkens back to when I was in Teachers College in 1991 and the Iraq invasion. So yeah, it's just such a scrambled eggs mess right now. I'm just really happy for connection. I feel like there's a really big tendency for people to withdraw and isolate, and so I'm really happy for this weaving and combining together. So important. Thanks very much.
Wonderful, Joan. We feel you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Joan. Who next? Bart. Yes, Bart, please.
My bestest friend.
I'm pretty local to Anne and Neil, so I live at 20 minutes from their house. it was those people who introduced me to this whole collapse thinking 2 years ago, and introduced me to the design school a little bit after. And yeah, I'm grateful that they both confluence together now. I will share a very short thing. I went to visit, I think 2 weeks ago, Anne and Neil. I had a pretty rough winter. And it helps me to stay with the "and now what" question. If I go to my very cynical, black, dark places, it helps me to just go to that place, and now what? And then I can move on. But on a walk with Neil, we bumped into this very small, really beautiful fungi, and it's
Scarlet elf cap.
yeah, exactly. I forgot the name, but thanks for naming it. And it really reminds me, like, okay, it's okay to have this fisheye lens and be in a very cynical mode, but it's helpful to once in a while zoom in and see some beauty, because otherwise you get very cynical if you observe everything, and so there will be still bombs wherever, but if you zoom in, there is this beautiful fungi in front of you, and that was really, really helpful, and I feel nourished to start spring with that insight. So I want to thank you for that. So yeah, it's an example of how dear Anne and Neil are, and the gratefulness of I. And by the way, I'm still enjoying your delicious jam. So
For a small fee, we can bring them online for you.
I'll go with that.
Yeah,
where it comes from. Yeah.
I can only recommend it. It's nice to see those two confluence together, and I hope, to tap into this knowledge even more, knowledge and connection.
Thank you, Bart.
Thank you, Bart. That's very, very dear to my heart, to hear how touching the conversations are, but also the being able to see beauty through those cynical eyes. And I told you on that walk, I reminded me of a friend, a young friend who was a little bit like that. He was all energy and he was all in his head. And we walked, and I would occasionally say, "Hey, look at that." And he'd be talking away, and I'd look down, like, "Oh, yeah." And he'd carry on. And after about 3 of these attempts, look at that. Look, what's on the tree there? Oh, they're little tiny bees. They're going into this little beehive. I said, "Yeah." A bit further on. And then finally he went, click. I know what you're doing. You're telling me to slow down and look at what's around me, not to be in there all the time. And so it was just a beautiful little example of how that little red just jumped out from the path in front of us on the mulched path. And I was like, wow, I hadn't even seen that before, and I live here. So thanks for sharing that. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you, Bart. Who wants to share that? Dave, hi, word to you, Dave.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm Dave Wolf. I'm here in the Miami Valley, kind of southwestern Ohio, Dayton, Cincinnati area. So just like very briefly, my why on all this is my children. And I would like to work towards creating a world where they can not only survive, but thrive in it. And I've found the design school and Ann and Neil, and now what, just very, very critical, fundamental paths forward for creating that. So I'm very thankful for the design school and for And Now What, and all the other adjacent communities. I've kind of tried to take the approach of like acting locally and connecting globally. So the design school is my connecting globally, and Co-op Dayton is an organization here for acting locally and connecting that way. And there's other groups I'm starting to connect with. And so I've been in the design school for a little over a year at this point. And it's, wow, a lot of complexity to absorb. And I'll live to 150 years old. I'll never absorb all of it or anywhere close to it. But hopefully I'm feeling a little bit more oriented after a year, and like very practical steps forward that I can take. And very much looking forward to this learning journey coming up. So thank you.
Brilliant, Dave.
Yes.
And it's been wonderful to know you first on Facebook and then, through multiple interactions over time, and now to see you here and to see you growing and leaning into this space. It's been wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your presence. Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. Brigitte, would you like to go next?
Can you hear me? I've struggled with my microphones today. Can you hear it? Yes.
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
Okay. I'm very happy to be here together with you. My name is Brigitte. I'm from Germany, near the Rhine Valley, Ruhr and Rhine Valley. So also in Europe, not that far from Anne and Neil and Bart. Yeah, I recently joined also design school, otherwise I would not be here. And I know these three Europeans from the conferences we did together. I was happy that Bart used the word to zoom in, because I was like, oh, do I want to join an online conference this afternoon? Why not go out and try to find some peace or trust in the nature, which is exploding at the moment here in Germany. And I'm never very happy, because I see all the things that are not happening, and I'm very concerned about so many things. So, but now I feel like, oh, this is good. I joined. I zoomed in. I zoomed with you. I zoomed together with you, and I think we can connect over time a bit better. Thank you for letting me join, and I'm very happy to be here. Thanks.
Beautiful, Bridget. Yeah.
Yes. Brigitte has also become a friend. I mean, we met at actually first, I think, Brigitte, at an R3.O conference, isn't it? When it was still in play.
In Amsterdam some years ago.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And we connected, and actually we immediately felt that there was a shared worldview behind that. And so when we organized our first in-place confluence, the second one, Brigitte, you signed up.
I was only at the second one.
At the second one. And that deepened a relationship, and we feel that local weaving is incredibly important. It is a bit further than 20 minutes, but it's still in the North Sea region bioregion, the rivers of the North Sea bioregion. So this is wonderful. And she was at our house like a month ago when we did a local event. So this is how the weaving goes on.
And just one more connection there. You mentioned the confluences, and Bart spoke previously. Bart was at the first confluence with us on collapse awareness and the tipping points on tipping points. He was also at the second one, where he had joined Equinox Collective and was part of the facilitation team. And so Bart is part of Equinox Collective that we partner with for running the confluences with the depth that we've been holding for this sort of interaction to emerge. So thanks very much for that, Bart, and thanks, Bridget, for being such a beautiful attendee and for visiting us in our house when we had Annalika Verkerk over here for the event around the 6th of February. So it was fantastic to see you then too.
And more to come, of course, but happy that we are all also here at the design school now together. Someone else is coming in. I'll let the person in. It's perfect timing. Yes. Emmanuel has said that she would be 30 minutes late, but it's all good. It's a welcome party. Everyone can come, drop in and out. So thank you, Brigitte.
Charlotte had mentioned that she was going to be dropping in when she got back on video. So
Super.
nice to see you, Charlotte.
Yeah. Charlotte, we are doing a check-in round just to say who you are and what your connection to the design school is or to ANW What is, and we'll chat later on what is going to happen. And so just now to get to know each other a little bit, who is here. So I'll leave you a few minutes maybe to settle.
Yeah, now it's fine.
It's fine already.
Oh.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. And you take up the space.
So,
That's good.
I'll see what comes out. I am Charlotte. I live in southwest London, near Richmond Park, which is where I've spent the whole day in the park with the deer and watching spring unfold. So I'm feeling in good spirits. It makes a difference being in nature.
It does.
Thought? I joined the design school just a month ago, and I have been getting through a lot of material very quickly, and really enjoying it. So thank you very much for creating all of that. And what do I want to share? I'm moving to Totnes in 2 months.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
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 And I'm going to put my roots down finally. So that's really exciting. And I'm looking forward to getting involved in the Bioregional Learning Centre there. So that's really exciting. And yeah, maybe I can share something that I've been busy with recently. I'm a coach, so I work with people who want to get out of the system and change career and get more into the regenerative space, which is wonderful. And what I write on Substack about career change, but increasingly I've been writing about the nervous system and the importance for all of us to learn how to work with the nervous system. So I've noticed in myself this kind of overwhelm and my nervous system not feeling safe. And what happens when I don't feel safe in my body, I then start to enact some behaviors that are not typical of me. So being a bit short with people, having less patience, isolating myself. So I'm sort of doing the work on myself and then writing about it. And when we're under strain, we can all start behaving in a way that isn't true to ourselves. So being in nature and meditating and all of those things brings us back to ourselves. So that's something I'm busy writing about at the moment.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, Charlotte, I'd just love to add a comment that Penny knows a lot about this theme as well. So you'll find a good friend in her. And that I had a very negative experience this morning that invoked some of those nervous system responses.
Yeah, Charlotte, there's a session in the inner space that you might like to watch on that in our last series that you might look for that one. I was on the nervous system. I think you'll love it.
Yeah, totally what you're talking about. So you'll find good friends.
Yeah, we're nobody's immune to it.
Nobody's immune.
Nope, we all have brains. We all have nerves. We all have hormones and endorphins, and
Thank you, Charlotte. That's
great
wonderful.
to be here.
Yeah.
And that self-reflective loop is so critical. The ability to step outside, observe, how am I aligning with what's happening around me in the whole system? How does it make me feel? And what am I going to do about it? And then to be able to express that and to distill that into words for other people is a vital gift as well. So thanks, Charlotte, for being here. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Aline, how does this land all with you? And please introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm super glad to see you again and to meet Neil and to be with you. I've heard about you through our friend Michelle Bowens, in fact.
Oh,
Michelle, yeah.
Michelle stayed at the house for about 5 weeks.
I know. So
Asked
I love this man, and he told me so many things about both of you. So I'm interested by the nature of the questions you ask and the way you ask them, and to say a word about where it lands. Well, I work as I would say as a creative thinking person, because that's my core activity. It's trying to open eyes which have new sorts of vision, as I say. So working on the way we can shift our perceptions, and that's because I'm completely dyslexic, so I like to put the world upside down, which I think is a good thing right now. By the way,
It's the right way up again.
but also I have co-written a book on a concept we invented a few years ago because we were fed up of entrepreneurship and leadership. So we invented the word shapership, so the art of shaping the future. And it's quite the opposite of what you say in a way, which is not true. But I like to say that we try to make desirable futures visible and actionable. So this is probably because I'm myself very much touched with the idea of desire versus sideration or fear versus hope. So I'm interested in the way you ask the questions, because I'm lucid, as Joe was saying, and I'm just looking at what is happening, but I want to know how to continue to learn about true questions and by the way, continue to move on with the idea of at the same time being realist and at the same time being putting imagination at work. So that's what I'm doing here. And I won't say, I'm currently writing something about mad land and nomad land. I've been very busy about mad world as a massive assured destruction, of course. And I'm busy writing something quite poetical on the way we can shift our point of view. And so that's what I'm busy, but I don't want to make it too long. Anyway, I'm looking forward to having conversation with all of you. So thank you for hosting that.
Oh, wonderful, Elyes. A pleasure to meet you. And a friend of Michelle Bounds. And for those that don't know Michelle, Michelle is famous for having helped to create the Peer-to-Peer Foundation and is very much into commons and the commoning approaches. Has a magnificent Wikipedia. Sorry, not Wikipedia. It's what do they call it?
It's a wiki.
It is a wiki. It's a wiki, not Wikipedia. Wiki. It's a wiki that has a lot of commons-based resources in it. So quite a powerful resource. Yeah.
And also a visionary.
He's a visionary.
Yeah. Is a visionary and a good friend of ours. So the weaving is on many different levels.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This was already a beautiful connecting. I propose that we've got now that little show around in the design school, because that is the big house where the small cozy corner of ANW What is located in. So first we'll look at the big house, and then we see, okay, what is in the big house and what is in the small house, and how do those two weave together? Penny, would you be okay to, I think I already gave permission to share screen, so if you can share screen and show us around.
I think it worked.
Yep, here we are. I will be the navigator and Penny will do the talking.
Excellent.
So yeah, just to say the most important place to go when you come into the design school, you might have gotten my message, is to go here, which is where you probably landed, to this welcome and orientation place, because it's going to help. It's actually quite overwhelming and confusing if you don't do this, but it'll help you just learn how to navigate the site. There's a site map that tells you all the different spaces, and it walks you through the process of learning how to navigate. So this is the most important place to come. This is we're on a laptop right now, so the menu's more visible on the left side. And it's down here in the home section. So that would be the most important thing to do in the beginning, just so you can orient yourself. And I don't want to go through like a detailed description, but just to say the top part here are the kind of global areas. And these areas are, the first three areas are like designed for you, or how do you say that?
Yeah, curated.
They're curated for you as a particular participant, depending on what spaces you've joined in the school. So there's a global feed, and you'll see posts there from the spaces you've joined.
And I'm in every space, so I see everything in the whole school. But if you were only in some spaces, that's what would aggregate here.
Yeah, and you can actually change what you're seeing in your feed with these options. But this is a nice place to go if you just kind of want to see the activity that's been happening across in aggregate across the school and the spaces you're in and in the public spaces. There's some spaces that everybody is in and you're auto joined into. And so you'll see those posts and events in this feed. But most of the spaces you have to choose to join. And the same is true for the school events area. So you're going to see events from spaces you've joined and from the public spaces. The dashboard is more like a place to go and get an overview of highlighted content that we curate throughout. Like, for example, the Now What space is open. So these are like featured items if you wanted to come get some highlights of the things happening across the school. And then the school members, of course, is a place to find all the other members of the school and search in different ways. You can find the newest members, the hosts, people who are near you, etc. And then there, down below that, you'll see several different collections. And the collections are what hold the spaces, which is where you can interact. So the home collection holds, for example, the welcome and orientation space, the school happenings space, and the member lounge. And the school happenings is where we post announcements for the whole school.
Yeah, school-wide announcements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the member lounge is the place where you can go interact the most here. This is where people will share.
Yeah, notice how there's a lounge feed and events under resources, etc. And here the lounge feed is if you post here, everyone will see it and you'll see what others have said and you can interact with each other here.
Yeah.
So the member lounge ends up being a pretty active social space on the platform.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is where all of our learning journeys that we've done throughout the years are hosted. Right now, we're about to start this one. This is the Regenerating the Earth Through Collapse learning journey. So if you haven't joined that space yet or signed up for the events, you should come here and check it out because Anne and Neil are going to be posting the integration sessions during this learning journey. So if you go to the events here, you'll see all the events that you can RSVP to, and you can add them to your calendar and get the Zoom link, etc. So there's 3 different kinds of sessions in the learning journey. Webinars, community calls, and then the integration sessions that Anne and Neil will be hosting.
But you can also go back and watch all of the recordings of the previous 3 learning journeys. So you could do those at your own pace.
Yep.
By just clicking on those.
So if you click into one of these, you'll see all the past content. So you can basically go through the learning journey, except you're doing it alone. So, and then down here, these spaces are going to be a little less active going now into the learning journey, but Joe hosts all of his sessions in the Earth Regeneration and Practice area. And there's a huge archive of.
Yeah, the resource archive in this one is big because it's a collection of lots of materials. So there's the Earth Regeneration and Practice series, the Speaker for the Earth series, the podcasts, Earth System Science series, Cultural Evolution series, the Regenerative Finance Labs, which there are 31 of, so there's a lot of those. The Body Chart Regenerative Finance Lab series, which is about the work specifically in Colombia, etc. So this is just a space where I hold focus on the Earth regeneration. What does it mean to do that, and what does it look like? Whereas if you go to the Bioregional Learning Exchange, which is one of the most important spaces in the school, this is where people who are doing bioregional organizing share updates of what they're doing. And so you can learn about what's happening in the Oceania Hub, which includes Australia, or people working in the Great Lakes and so forth. And you can find all of the events here for these different, especially the bioregional update sessions, that we only have one more because then they stop during the learning journey. Do you want to talk about the inner space? Because this one's really important.
Yeah, and then the inner space, this is the other side of the doing, right? So this is the inner work. And Anna and Neil actually helped host the last series that we did, which is here in the archive if you want to go through it, on cultivating our inner capacities for bioregional leadership. And of course, that involves collapse awareness and collapse acceptance, actually as a core to being able to be a leader in these times. So yeah, there's a lot of different material in here as well, a lot of different courses and series that have been hosted here, including one with Anna and Neil. And so you can go through there, and it's going to be a little less active during the time of the learning journey because we're going to be integrating the inner work into the learning journey.
Yeah, the integration sessions during the learning journey are sort of a catch-all for the inner space during the learning journey itself. Mm-hmm. So we don't offer too many things and overwhelm people.
Yeah. So then just briefly about the other places, this is where we are right now in the And Now What space. And this is, community spaces are hosted by our members. So all of these spaces are hosted by members, and they're just so rich and full of incredible opportunities. So I would really recommend checking them out, anything that interests you. There's a collaborative governance space. There's a PDC that happens in between when the learning journey ends and when it starts again. There's a story medic. There's just so many things. I would just say, go check it all out.
Yeah, and join any of these spaces that you like, because you're not defaulted into them.
Right.
You need to choose to join them. And that's so that our members can have a customized experience. Otherwise, you'd show up and see everything, even spaces you're not interested in. So you need to go here and join them, but you can
click the title.
Yeah, it might look like this, community spaces. You open it, and then you'll have all of these options.
Yeah.
And similarly, the self-guided learning are all spaces you would need to join. But this is basically a treasure trove of hundreds of webinars in different thematic areas organized for self-guided learning. So for example, if you wanted to go and learn regenerative finance, you'd go in here and you would find a table of contents with pro-social as regenerative finance, multi-capitalism, etc. And so you can just go in and join any of these spaces and learn to your heart's content. There is a ton of stuff here.
You want to talk about the hubs too?
Yeah, and then the place-based hubs are actually really important part of the strategy of the design school, which is our strategy is to regenerate the earth for real, not just talk about it. And our strategy is actually parallel organizing in different bioregions to coordinate the restoration of vital earth systems processes until we arrive at planetary scale. And so these place-based hubs are what are, in the technical language of Mighty Networks, they're called limited access spaces, which means that the hosts of these spaces can give a public link that is not behind the paywall of the design school, and people can invite members of their community to join for free. And then those members can only see what's in the space. They can't see the whole design school. And I'll just give you an example. There are two people in this group in the Grand River watershed, but I'll actually show the one that one of the ones I do is Regenerate Barichara, which is a space for Barichara Colombia, where we host events and posts and have a bunch of members and we explore Barichara. But this is different from, say, the group that's organizing in Greater Appalachia. And so the idea is that our members, so like if you live in Europe, you might join the European hub and participate in conversations. There's also a Mediterranean hub. And you'll see
rivers in the North Sea as well.
Yeah, and the rivers of the North
Sea, of course,
and so forth. And so the idea is that there are a lot of these different spaces. And I'll stop sharing now because you can see how this is why the orientation is helpful, is because it's overwhelming if you don't know what it is. But if you enter in a thoughtful way, you'll just find the riches of community, of wonderful people, and the riches of content, of lots and lots of learning materials. But then also of organizing supports, including that we mobilize funding and support the seeding of regenerative work, and then also that we support people to do place-based organizing, which our members do. So that's our whirlwind tour of the design school, where there's a ton of stuff going on. And if there are questions, you can always reach out to Penny or our community host, Elyes, who will answer any questions you have. But also most of our regular members who have been around for a while can guide you as well.
So thank you,
Yeah, thanks,
Penny
Joe.
and Joe. It is really a treasure trove. It's incredible. If we talk about the wiki of Michelle, well, this can without shame sit next to it. It's a different kind of course, but it's also a treasure trove. So we are honored to be part of this big wealth of intelligence and of leadership and of creativity and of active hope and all of that. So
And the capacity to curate and to hold space for the conversations, to put into a library, an archive that's available so beautifully. And that's one of the reasons that we saw a lot of synergy between connecting our community, for which we couldn't do that. Didn't have quite enough people, didn't have quite enough energy, we didn't quite know how to do it. And so the mutual benefits that we could see was in connecting between the beautiful work that's already being done as a towards bioregionalism. The and now what was more about the how do you cope with the away, what are you moving away from, and what are you moving towards? Bringing those two together was really beautiful. So thanks very much, Joe and Penny, for that rapid tour. And you know, the synergies are very strong, so fantastic. And we see that Michelle had her hand up for a question, I think.
yes.
Well, it's actually not a question. It was just a little tip. When I joined, if I was in a breakout room or someone made a comment that I thought was interesting, I would go look them up in the members lounge. And there's a little, it's not as easy to follow here as in other, it's like social media, but you go along to the end, there's a little tab, and then you could follow individual people. And then you can see when they post instead of having to read the members lounge or watch for focus things. Like as you're meeting people, you can follow them. And then it feels a little bit more like you know them because you get to see when they're posting things. So that's just
Excellent tip.
a little tip from a relative newcomer.
Excellent tip.
Thanks,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
That's excellent.
Thanks, Michelle. I didn't know that myself, so I learn here. Huh? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So maybe if that's okay with you, we would like to say a little bit more about the connection between ANW and Joe and Penny, because that goes way back. I started following Joe, I think Joe, Elyes was not even born, and you
I
were
think that's right.
together with the mother of your child. You were on a tour in Europe, and you were posting on social media about that, and you were doing all this kind of amazing stuff that you were posting about, and I started to follow your thoughts, and my mind was blown away, and it was about a range of subjects, especially also about economics and the big system. So I had never read someone who could articulate so concise and so sharp what was wrong with the big system. And I was just sucking it up. But that was not even the most important. The most important was the words of Donella Meadows that you put under my attention. We are in overshoot and collapse. And that went for me. Yeah, and I was immediately, yes, this is so fundamental. If you don't get that, then everything that you are doing when you are looking for meaning for your own life, or where do I put my attention, my energy, and my resources, is actually not relevant anymore. So I started to read up a whole lot of things around that, also following your trail, because you were talking about that. And that was like you start pulling a thread and then a whole world opens for you. So that is what you meant to me. And I have seen you over those years going through so many ups and downs and heartbreak and trying paths and bumping into things and being heartbroken and rebouncing again and trying again and having again a bump and trying again until you started writing that book that you have written about, sorry, the title,
The design pathway, and it's
design pathway,
there's
exactly.
only one, the design pathway.
The design,
for
right.
regenerative.
And you were doing that, and you were sharing that as you were writing them at a pace that I was like, I was already with Neil then, and I remember,
And Neil's kind of a powerhouse.
yeah, I was sitting in the garden in the backyard here in the hammock and reading your words, and I was sucking it up, and I was amazed at the pace of and the high quality of things that came out. It was like it all ran out and it came together, and it was like, boy, I want a paper version of that, because it's separate parts, and I was not yet together. So I was thrilled when you managed to publish it in a paper version. And so also that, because we were already fully into the part of being collapse aware and then collapse acceptant, like face reality. That's the first tagline of ANW. Face reality, because this is the basis of all. You cannot start off from a false premise. But then, of course, if you don't have, and several people have said that here, an imagination about how are we going to navigate this and not prevent it, because that's hopium. Huh? We don't do hopium here. If you want that, find another place, because we're not about that. But that also doesn't mean that we give up. And in the design pathway, I found the big vision of what is happening with the earth, and the coherence, the super coherence over all the fractal levels, up till the very deep inner work that needs to be done there. It is all there in a layered way and in a concise way. And that was for me like, yes, this is, you have the away from, where we don't want to go anymore, and then you have a towards, and that towards needs to meet certain criteria. And so for me, this was just like, yes, yes, and yes. So no wonder that we were we were not part of I was not part of the reading group. I was doing that on my own, the munching, but I was following it. And then when you closed down that first Mighty Networks community, I was member, but not an active member. But we joined in both the current one, the design school, and there we found, yes, the embodiment of the inner and the outer work, especially with Penny next to you. I mean, she is such
That's
an
important.
amazing complementary.
I knew Penny before you knew Penny.
That's
We used to talk online before I knew.
true.
So
I'll give it to him to sing Penny's praise.
So just a very quick one, that I was going through the same head-butting and painful processes that Joe was going through, but he was far more successful and far more high profile than I was. So I was basically banging my head on brick walls in the dark, and he was banging his head on brick walls in the light. We probably hurt each other a bit because of the few cracks in the wall, but Penny saw that, and Anne saw that, and other people see that, and so they're looking for people who are feeling the same pain and can see the same brokenness, and especially if they've got that gift of empathy and connecting people and the inner work, inner journey work. And I was completely new to that stuff, and I accidentally stumbled across eco-spiritualism through people who were helping me, and so to suddenly find myself with people who could actually see the pain I was going through, even though I didn't solve the pain, at least alleviated the feeling of being alone, banging my head on a brick wall and feeling the pain. And very much saw that from a long distance. And the reason we came together about 7 years ago now was through that mutual appreciation of the pain, but also the mutual appreciation of the love that causes that pain. And as Bart was saying before, the ability to zoom in, zoom out, see the beauty, see the dark and the light, and holding all of that. And so when we came together just prior to COVID, and started developing the concept of and now what, we knew that there was a connection with Joe's work around bioregionalism. A lot of the work I'd done previously wouldn't have been labeled that, but was pretty close to elements of that. And the frustrations I had were journeys that Joe and I have had several discussions around this as well. That I know where you're at, brother. And so we really can feel the ebb and the flow. And it differs according to place-based expression, but the generic principles and the generic problems and generic wicked solutions and wicked problems that are in that lead us to the same sorts of conclusions, as Anne said. There's an away from, do we really want to devote our lives to things doing this stuff? Do we want to have our ladders on the wrong wall? We've gone higher on the ladder, but it's the wrong wall, So do we want to be competing to do the wrong things righter? Or do we want to be moving towards things that are more aligned with head, heart, hands, soul, and what Earth needs of us in this time? And that requires facing reality and living the questions, which is the next element of that. And that's what I find with this beautiful woman beside me. And that's where we see the synergies with what Joe and Penny are doing. And we had a lot of that thinking and a lot of that willingness to bring to our community, but we couldn't quite crack the critical mass and the circulation process required to justify the amount of effort required to keep that community alive. And so we feel very guilty. I feel personally guilty about not being able to engage as much as I could have done and should have done. But at the same time, we've, through that process, learned a lot and led them to you guys. And that's probably a bit of a segue to the body of work we now have in the and now what space here, which even surprised us when we started to say, well, what have we got we could put in our space? We're going to put this space up. What have we got? And we've got that, we've got that, we've got that, we've got that. And so a lot of effort that could and possibly should have been going into the and now what Mighty Networks has been coming here because it found an audience and a ready and willing engagement process and was being beautifully curated. So that would be my summation of that. And I just wanted to congratulate Anne for her beautiful summation of the journey with Joe and the partnership and comradeship we've found with Joe and Penny in being able to see each other and feel each other so deeply across the distance. We've never actually met. I haven't met face to face. I know Anne's met Joe in.
I got to meet Anne. We've had
in Rotterdam, 2019.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And we look forward to potentially welcoming them back into this part of the world come later this year, depending on how things go and how much is still possible later in the year. We'll see what happens with what's happening globally.
Yeah, we can't plan.
We can't plan too far ahead, but we can hold that.
If I could add one quick comment before you share more about And Now What. In practice, doing this work, as Penny was alluding to earlier, people who are not collapse accepting basically go insane. And you end up with all kinds of conflicts and betrayals. And basically what we find in practice is collapse acceptance is a necessary condition. Yes. Not sufficient, but necessary. And this is just like basic pragmatics. And it goes back to what Neil said about putting the ladder on the wrong wall. But actually, we have had so many, like for example, I work with a network of people and we mobilize money to them, but then they spin off their purpose and go do really weird stuff, creating huge conflicts because they break all their agreements. And at its core, it's because they're not collapse accepting. Totally. And so I just wanted to name that in practice, we found this to be completely essential. And so when we were designing this learning journey and we said to Anne and Neil, we're looking forward to talking to you. We've got an idea for a theme. You're going to love it. That we saw this potential for synergy a few months ago. And here we are. So just wanted to name that piece. It's not just a luxury add-on or because we're friends and we like each other. These are necessary building blocks. And so I just wanted to name that.
Thanks, Joan. I'll just build on that just quickly with my relationship with my beautiful man, Bart. That because he's been through those two confluences and can deeply feel collapse, that acceptance of that deepens every conversation immediately. There's an immediate connection. And it doesn't mean the small talk and the fun goes away, but it does mean we know if we need to, we can go there. We can hold that space safe enough. We can dance around that space and we can hold others in that space. And that's such a critical element, as you say, and that collapse acceptance at the communal level, it's what's going to be required to be getting priorities and funded priorities going in the right direction, because otherwise we're doing the wrong things righter. And that's the hard thing, is that most of the funding, most of the priorities are still going in the wrong direction. And so we're battling against a paradigm that hasn't let go yet. And that's really pushing the proverbial uphill. Yeah.
Okay, we've been talking a fair
have.
bit, so I would like to pause a little bit and ask people, are there any reflections, comments, asks, especially because this is really important. What are your needs right now? What do you most want to see in the design school maybe, but especially in the ANW What space, because this is our little corner. We can go later to what is already in there, but I first want to know from you, what is it you most need now?
While people think about that, Michelle has just posted a question.
Okay.
I actually have a path of inquiry about collapse acceptance, maybe for this session or another one in the future, to articulate that. Michelle, would you like to elaborate on that? And we'll see if that's a quick answer or something we can point to already, or whether it's actually part of the body of the work that we're doing here, because I think it's top of mind for you at the moment.
So I find myself, it doesn't feel like a convergence. It feels like I've got a foot in two different worlds. So I aspire to a collapse acceptance, and it's, depends on the day kind of thing. But I'm working on it and I reflect on it. But I also have a role, and it's so the United Church of Canada is a part of Christianity that's more about social justice, and that and there's a branch of that actually is about, or part of that's about wild church and outdoor church and eco spirituality. So this is a place where I have a leadership role, and I'm talking to people who are reading the news, like we pray the news from time to time, and so I come from a background of counseling and mental health. So in my personal observation, it seems to me that the culture is a fractal reflection of what we sometimes see as diagnosis. So we see addictions, we see cancer, we see psychosis, and those are all, like, the culture is addicted to greed and growth, and right now I think that it would be fair to call capitalism, kind of a cancer. So there's this place in the healing world, and in addiction, there are people. There's my mind just went blank. Just a second. There's stages of change. So people have, like, sometimes they're just not aware that they're addicted, and they don't understand. They're pre-contemplative, and you it doesn't matter how much destruction an alcoholic is doing. If they're not ready to acknowledge that they have a problem, they're not going to go to AA, and if they go, they won't stay, kind of thing. Then there's the pre-contemplative. Oh, my doctor says I'm going to die of a heart attack if I don't quit drinking. Maybe I should think about it. They're not ready yet. And then eventually people get to a place where they're ready to change. And that doesn't mean that, it's an important stage, and that's why we want to have treatment for people when they're ready for change. But there's still the whole path that they have to walk. And even once people have really, really worked hard, they can be sober for 20 years and they can have a relapse, right? Like this is the world of addiction. And it seems to me, on that fractal scale, that if I want to be like a leader in the Grand River watershed at my bioregion, that I am going to be, obviously you want your leadership to be like, you don't ask someone to run an AA unless they have been sober for a period of time, and so you don't want people who aren't collapse aware or aren't collapse accepting. But on the other hand, if I'm reaching out in a pastoral way to people, like there's a place where it doesn't feel authentic to have. This is a conversation I have with some people, and this is a conversation I have with everyone else. And it also potentially is polarizing. So I'm sorry, this is a really long question. I meant for it to be more concise, but it's like, how do we deal with people who are in distress and they're probably what we would call pre-contemplation. They're aware of a polycrisis, or at least 8 levels of crisis. And they want to be part of a solution, but they're not necessarily ready to talk the language. And sometimes you can be gentler. Instead of saying collapse, you say,
Michelle,
yeah.
I love the case that you are putting here. And for me, when I hear you, this is a wonderful case that we could explore in actually in the Courageous Conversations.
Okay.
This is all about the inner journey that is necessary to navigate collapse, be it at a personal fractal, or at whatever fractal. So we have several roles now in the design school. One is the integration sessions that are following the learning journey, where Joe is taking the lead into the thematic and the content of what are we talking about when we are speaking about regenerating Earth through collapse. And then the integration sessions are on what does this content mean for me in my life, in my context. How do I integrate that in my daily life? So that is one thing that follows a certain thread that is there already, that is presented. While the Courageous Conversations, which is something that you find in our space, is the other weeks that we don't do the integration sessions. We do the same week, but on Thursdays we do the Courageous Conversations, and they go specifically onto the very deep personal internal journey that we can do collectively. We don't have to do it on our own. So these are the steps, or the difficulties or the bumps that we encounter when we are moving from collapse awareness over collapse acceptance back again to denial. That is not just a beautiful right way to go, to snippets of collapse preparedness, where we have our inner strength to hold up the light, whatever darkness is coming around us. And we're going to help each other to more and more find that space. And so the Courageous Conversations are an add-on on the learning journey that is going on, where we can go deeper inside. Is that a little bit of an answer to your...
Well, it might be, but I just wanted to clarify. Because if it was just me, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm dealing with this. The reason I'm raising it is because I'm in what I would call a pastoral relationship with other people.
Yes.
Who are not collapse accepting. And it seems to me that if you think of the language of trauma, it's not helping them if I start talking about collapse, if they are just wanting to focus on 2 or 3 crises, right? So it was kind of that leadership role aspect of I think Dave, somebody wrote in the chat, people where they are, and of course, like every other part of life, we're not all in the same place. So I didn't know whether Courageous Conversations encompass the leadership aspect of that. like I think the personal part is important as well. But I was trying to articulate that leadership pastoral care of not adding to the trauma of someone as they're coming through towards collapse awareness and collapse acceptance, but in fact the skills to walk alongside them in a way that is supportive, not shoving them around.
Beautiful, Michelle. And that hold that intent and hold that question, because it's something I would love to investigate more deeply in Courageous Conversations. To build on something Joe said and what Anne said about Joe, that integrative capacity is a critical capacity of leadership. And integrative capacity depends on your capacity to also see context. In the absence of real context, how can you lead anybody anywhere? And if you don't know where you are, how can you navigate? So holding all of those things and recognizing that your individual capacity to hold that is important. Your capacity to lead depends on, as Dave said, meeting people where they're at, but also challenging them if they're not in the right place to survive what's coming next. So the little rule we would use is disrupt coherence compassionately. And then once you've disrupted coherence compassionately, how do you engage disruptions wisely? And then how do you recohere in ways that is meaningful? But that's something we can come back to in more depth. But a really critical point for and now what space, because it's actually that how do individuals become collectives and go beyond that into governance mechanisms that actually make a bigger difference.
Yeah. Okay, I see that several people have put their hands up. Aline, is that also a hand that comes up?
Yes, it's my hand at last, at least.
Okay. Okay, but Dave has also his hand up. Can you wait a little bit, or is it immediate? Yeah, okay. Dave, but can you be concise, please, because I'm looking at the time. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Ian. So as part of that conversation and thinking through what's going on, one of the capacities that I would like to build up in meeting people where they are is to be able to have a more comprehensive understanding of the collapse that is happening, so that when I'm having a conversation, whatever angle that they're coming from, whatever is important in their mind at that point in time, I can make a connection between what is happening, what's real for them in that moment, and a path forward to joining in on being I'm not exactly sure how to phrase it, but I think you guys get my understanding on joining in. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I get what you mean. And I also can relate that to what Michelle said about the overwhelm. If it is already big from personal trauma, you're not going to put another overwhelm on top of that. You are going to be respectful of where that person is and what that person can handle. But I have to specify that our space and now what is not really about the personal trauma and the therapy. I come from there too. I'm a psychologist, I'm a coach, I'm a team coach, an organizational coach. But what we are doing here is specifically work around collapse awareness towards collapse acceptance and collapse preparedness, with the caution that you always check in where a person is at and that you are respectful, that you are never pushing, that you are opening a space, but inviting people in. And if they don't want to go there or are not ready, that you obviously are not going to push anyone. I mean, yeah, that would be my answer. But we are not going to go in the therapeutic work that needs to be done before you can even enter the space of collapse awareness. Just be aware that it needs to be done and that it's very important work. I'll leave it at that. I see Bart has his hand up, but I want first Aline to say, okay, Aline, go.
So I must say I'm attracted by the possibility to have conversations with you about how to live with integrity, the space between intention and action. Well, I'm trying to make it as thin as possible in my case, and although I fully agree with everything you said about collapse being a precondition and the movement you propose, I'm sure I'm not at all doubting about the collapse, but I'm emotionally very much struggling with the acceptance and the capacity to orient my, I would say not efforts, but my energy and what does it mean to fight for is maybe something have a purpose. So it's all about those questions. I'm sure they are tackled in your courageous space. I don't know anything about this, but this is the way I understand. And so I would be fully happy to hear about ways to question my own, I would say, emotional and human difficulty to, I would say, to die before I die or something like that.
Yes, very, very, very
And
much
I
so.
think it was always my willingness to be alive when I die, but I know we need to die alive before we die. So for me, shifting ideas is about that. So I'm happy to do that with you. That's what I'm here for.
Very, very welcome, Aline. You hit the nail on the head. Really, it's all about that. So yes, this is the core of it. And we all struggle with that. So one thing I want to say, don't expect us to be the experts that are handing you the answer.
Yeah.
We are co-travelers, and sometimes we can maybe lead a bit, and other times we will fuck up and we will need help from other people. So this is very much how we navigate this together.
Living the questions.
Yeah. And it is also the fundamental insight that nobody can do this by themselves. We cannot be perfect. There is no coherence possible because everything is connected with everything. And so these kind of insights help us navigate, because it can be the cognitive dissonance of knowing what needs to be done or feeling what needs to be done, and then seeing what we only can do can be devastating. And that is exactly what everyone feels, and that we help each other navigate. So yes, very much so. Very much welcome in the Courageous Conversations.
Thank you.
One more quick touch on that when you're talking about that dying before we die, the loss of identity, of what I have tied myself to, of what my career was, of who I thought I was, of what my dreams were going to become, of what I thought I would be doing with my life. All of that is part of this journey. And the acceptance element is having to let go of elements of those things which are no longer true because of reality. And then the question then becomes literally, and now what? So that's where we're holding space for exactly these sorts of conversations. I'm just aware that Bart had his hand up before,
Bart.
but I'm not sure if Bart put his hand down but thanks so much, Aline. This is exactly where we want to go with some
beautiful,
stuff.
beautiful.
Well, thank
Bart, Bart, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. I think I wanted to add two small things. I thank you, Anne, for expressing that it's not a linear thing, like this collapse acceptance. I thought it was. I hoped it was, but apparently there are some. It's a spiral, right? So I love that fact. And the second thing, it's related to what we were talking about. I loved the movie, the recordings of Michael Dowd, and one of these things he mentioned is in cultivating this calm gratitude. Is rule 1: accept denial, and yeah. It's not up to us to force people. That's how I see it. It's not up to us to force people like wake up, but it's to be ready when this enormous grief and this enormous despair comes, and really to build that capacity in ourselves to at least create these isles of sanity where we can come together and yeah, look each other in the eye and say, yeah, and now what? And what are we going to do? And wow, what have we done? What have we lost? And all these kind of things. So for me, it's not a matter of convincing. It's more like creating his capacity to be ready when things are coming. So that's what
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And just to connect that back to other work we're trying to do here on the ground, the Collapse Accepting Systems Thinkers network that I'm trying to form and that Bart might have a role in, depending on how the group responds tomorrow when they meet here. We can see and sense each other. People who get this stuff deeply can see and sense each other, and we can bring a different level of connection without having to fight the denial. And so it short circuits the fights and the battles about climate or anything else, because you're actually saying, so what are we going to do together that we can't do alone? Because we all know that's happening, and now what are we going to do about it? And that actually is such a release of energy, and that's part of what Anne's saying about the alchemizing effect of collapse acceptance enables you to get past all that shit, and now we've got to work out which is the highest priority for now in this now. What are we going to do next? Yeah, very powerful. Thanks, Bart.
I see your hand, Charlotte, but Brigitte had her hand up first. So, Brigitte, yeah.
Thank you. That resonates a lot, and I'm very happy to have that space to share. I'm very much thinking and also communicating with people about the fact that all the things we did, all these recipes we had, do not work, and they did not work well, and they do not work anymore if we accept collapse. And I'm a scientist, I do consultancy with companies, I'm very much in this big sustainability bubble, ESG things, environmental things, climate change things, and I think people just on scientific fact should see what is going on. And this is a scientific fact that we are in collapse. And I'm so much struggling that people do not accept or do not talk about all the things we did wrong. I don't want to put guilt on anybody or something, but just to see, well, really, the things we did were not right. And this is something I would like to have space for. It's also about grieving, but I think it's also a very rational thinking thing to see, okay, it really was not the right thing what we did, and what all this community is doing did not take to the end we were heading for. So this is something I would like to have some space for also in my personal journey, because if I accept that I'm still working or living in that community of people who try just to go on, and while they see what is happening. So this is the struggle I have, and I would love to feel also with them at least at some points, some connection that, we have, there are other things to do now. It's very, very different. And this is what I would, where I need some a community for being with people who feel that and who also struggle with these conflicts. And I think this is, it would make things so much easier. And for me, I could do my things much better with some understanding of the things we do wrong and did wrong also. Thank you.
Again, Bridget, if you create a space that can do that, I've got a lot of stories I can bring, things that didn't work. Believe me, I've got a lot of stories when you're ready for them. And in fact, where do you think the idea of "and now what" came from? It's, oh, fuck, I tried that, didn't work. And now what? I'll try that. So many places I've tried stuff. However, and this is the thing, you can learn from your mistakes. You can modify your mistakes, and you can also hang on to a little bit of hope that some of those things might work when the conditions shift. And so don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. review what was working, what didn't work, because what doesn't work for you might actually work for somebody else. But you've got to, it's, again, navigating, discerning, is it potentially a solution to this particular issue, even if it doesn't solve collapse? Is this a way we could act? And that's a lot of the work we have to do every day, is what still works, what doesn't work. Yeah.
And what works in different regions
Yes.
differently. I think this is also important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we still have one question that we can take, and Charlotte had her hand up, so I want to give the floor to Charlotte, and then we will round up with a quick checkout.
We're assuming that people have already looked at the And Now What space, and
Yes.
it's not that hard to navigate.
Yeah.
If anybody's got any real questions, they can hang around after the bottom of the half hour or hour, depending on where you're at, and we can help you with that.
And of course, this is not the last opportunity
Exactly.
for us to talk. Any questions, anytime are welcome, and we can communicate through the design school. Charlotte, please go ahead.
I'm not sure it's a question though, but it's
Or
more
not
reflection.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been on the collapse aware to collapse acceptance journey for about 4 years, although I think I got to acceptance quite quickly, but it's more about coping. I think that's been what I've been working with, the coping of acceptance. And I've come to realize in order to take action, you have to have accepted this. You have to accept the reality in order to take actions that align with that reality. And I've found it very difficult with family and loved ones who aren't collapse accepting, that you literally can't have a conversation about what should we do? Like, should we move? Or like, without the acceptance, you can't go to that conversation.
Exactly.
And it's devastating.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Yes, yes. We have been there so much, Charlotte. I mean, both Neil and I have lost our partners because of that. Because you see things and you start living in a world that looks completely different from what they are looking at. And we are not saying that everyone who gets collapse acceptance should leave their partners. I'm just saying we have felt the deep, devastating pain of becoming collapse acceptance. It has real consequences.
Especially without others that we knew that were in the same capacity to hold that as well. So that's why being able to see each other, seeing this, is so critical. It's the reflective loop that is so powerful in giving the mutual individual assurance, the individual assurance that this, wow, somebody feels the same thing I do, the camaraderie that comes with that, and then the discussions, conversations that can come from that, which then lead towards more collective action. But it's very hard to do it on your own. That's why we say don't try and do it alone.
So also thank you for bringing that up, because it's this is one of the core things. When you change, your relationships network changes. And that is the hardest thing of all. That is the hardest thing. Okay.
Even if you don't want it to change,
No,
even if
you don't want
hanging
it,
on.
It does. It does. Michelle, can you make it brief?
Yeah, I'm really sorry I went on and on last time.
No problem. I'm looking at the time, and
very direct sometimes.
I really want to have a quick checkout round.
No, this just is 8 words, really short. Of what's left. Anyways, when you were talking about making decisions during the dying of my father, there were some of the family could not come to terms with that he was dying, even though, the medical people had told us that. And the decisions that get made when you don't recognize that someone is dying are the wrong decisions. Yeah.
Totally. Also that I relate a lot with, because I assisted also at the death of my father 15 years ago, and looking death in the eye and not flinching away was exactly what I learned at that point. And it was life-changing. It is, if you can do that, it changes you profoundly. And if you cannot do that, you cannot take the next developmental step. That's so true. Wow, that is a deep and heavy note to end with, but I think it's appropriate because what we are doing here, I see Penny nodding too, what we are doing here is inviting people to face reality, and facing reality is amongst those things is looking death in the eye on many different levels. And then not giving up living, because we are still alive and there is still a lot of beauty and there is still a lot of goodness to fight for. And we will find joy and community and meaning in doing exactly that. And once you have experienced that, you also are going to be so attractive for other people who are on the path. And that is exactly what we want to do. This is exactly what we mean by creating islands of sanity or islands of hope. It starts with your own inner journey, and then you connect with other people who are on the same journey. And hopefully we can create not just loose individual points, but real networks and communities that are holding up the light as we navigate through this dark period. Right. Big words, big words. I want one word or a few words from checkout from each of you. Can we do that? Is that okay? Yes. Bart, you wanna start?
I can start, yes. Grateful, I think, and hopeful, but not in the hopium way.
Thank you. Who do you pass it on to?
Dave.
Thank you. I'm going to say new connections.
Mm.
And I will pass it on to Charlotte.
Gratitude and such relief. I'm not crazy.
You aren't.
Well, she might be crazy, but we don't know that yet. We'll find out.
Brigitte, you want to go next?
Yeah, good to be crazy because I'm not totally alone with it. Yeah, I feel I'm touched, thankful. Thank you. Over to Joan.
So what came back to me was this the discussion of the beautiful fungi, and that we live, we make mistakes, we find connection, but we compost what doesn't work, and we continue to grow. That's what I'm taking from this. It's been a wonderful conversation. I'll pass to Aline.
I feel moved and a mixture of sadness and hope, but hope, grateful for what is coming, I mean. And I pass it to, I don't know your name yet, and you are on the screen, so would you like to go on?
You mean Emmanuel?
Yes.
Emmanuel, we haven't heard you yet. Emmanuel.
So mine is playful, deeper engagement, and I'm going to pass it to Penny.
I'm feeling like a stirring in the depths, like a deep stirring and a certain kind of comfort that I feel being with all of you. Who hasn't gone?
Michelle.
And Anne and Neil.
Yeah, I feel this is kind of unpleasant, but I feel like a wounded healer and I've got to stop picking at the scab. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I feel actually, I feel incredibly happy right now. Incredibly happy. I mean, with all this darkness, but we are here exactly at the right place. So this feels so good. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Joe and Penny, for hosting us here. Yeah, that's my overwhelming feeling. And I hand it over to Neil. He has the last word because tomorrow it's his birthday.
Oh, stop it. So here I am, almost 66, and wow, I've got tears forming in my eyes. They're tears of happiness and gratitude for an amazing group of people, and to feel what is emerging here, which has that roller coaster of emotions, the depth to hold it, the joy and the laughter, the beauty, the goodness, the truth. I can feel it all coming through here, and the courage to have these sorts of conversations. And so exactly the sort of concept of courageous conversations. How do we hold space for what wants to be born in these times when a lot of things are dying? And I'll thank you all for that. It was more than one word, but I've got a little poem and I was leading into that. That was the segue. So thank you for all being here today. And I'll have a little poem here. It's called Forest Whispers, and it's about the local Haverley boss here in the Daly River catchment nearby that I go to very regularly. I went to yesterday to reconnect. You are not your feelings, I heard the forest whisper. Yes, it's logical you feel our pain. Yes, the trees are bare, it's winter. Yes, the loggers have been through. Yes, we lost brethren to the storms and to the chainsaws. I silenced, scented, breathed, and stood still. I swear I heard the forest say, now that I have your attention, look down here. Yes, crouch down, see these green mosses? See the leaves from autumn that are being processed? See the way we harness the light? Now, can you see how we will survive? Yes, I thought, I can.
Thank you, beautiful people. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you all for being.
Bye-bye and happy birthday,
Happy
Neil.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So lovely to meet you, Eileen. So lovely to see you all here. And we hope that everybody watching this recording also feels the energy that was in the room, because it's been really lovely for me. Thanks.
Neil, will you post that poem?
Yes, sure. I'll post it in the And Now What space.